In the heart of darkness, secrets lurk in every shadow. Welcome to the new content for Bendy Inc. Lord of Hell, where nothing is as it seems. Join us as we uncover the secrets of the Ink Lords and the evil plot that controls hell. Without warning, the performers shot back up with vacant expressions and black, lifeless eyes. They readied their instruments. At the same time, a figure was seen outside by the guests, obscured by the fog as it skipped towards the entrance in a merry way, letting the crowd get a better look at the creature. The same creature then performed a fantastic leap through the air before landing right before the guests at the entrance, revealing itself to be a hellhound. There should be a GIF or video here. Update the app now to see it. The song concluded and everyone clapped, cheered and whistled in admiration for the song, while Bendy soaked it all up. The Ghoulishes, especially Stella, were practically fuming. How could this joke if a demon still be alive? Stella's thoughts were interrupted when the Mrs. and Mr. Von Eldritch spoke up next to her. Mother, well, that was simply spectacular. Did you organize this, Stella? I. Father, if so, can you give us his number? He would make for some fine entertainment during our birthdays. Stella, no, you don't understand. Bendy, thank you. Thank you all, you're all too kind. Stop, I'm blushing. Really, it's too much, keep it coming. Bendy stood proudly on stage as the hellhound walked behind him off stage, as well as some of the musicians. While he had everyone's undivided attention, he took the chance to speak up. Bendy, if we could just calm down for one moment, that will be wonderful. Thank you. Now, tonight is obviously a very special night, since we have all gathered here to celebrate dear Octavia's 18th birthday. Finally, she can take responsibility for her actions. The crowd chuckled at the light joke as Bendy continued. Stella and Stolas, on the other hand, were still in shock of his arrival, and were already worried about the fact that he knew their daughter's name. Bendy, birthdays are meant to celebrate us moving forward in life and looking towards a brighter future. Admittedly, with some booze in it. Once again, the audience laughed at the witty cartoon and were enjoying themselves until Bendy slowly adopted a more serious expression. Bendy, and yet, there is one person in here who refuses to move forward, who refuses to let go of the past, and has yet to take actual responsibility for their actions. Stella. Stella suddenly froze in shock and fear at the mention of her name, as the crowd gazed in her direction in anticipation of an answer. Even her own family backed away, with the Von Eldritch family adorning a puzzled expression. Stolas looked to his wife with worry. A small wait took place before Bendy spoke up again. Bendy, do you know who this person is? Stella coughed. Pardon. Bendy, the person I was just referring to. The one that won't move forward. Stella, oh. Well, I'm not as sure, it could be anyone, she said with a faint happy expression. The audience turned to look at Bendy. Bendy, really, don't worry, I'm sure this'll ring a bell, he said as the musicians pulled out a box on wheels that looked like one you'd see in the circus and handed it over to Bendy. He slowly opened the box until it obstructed the audience's view of his head and what was inside. He rummaged around until his right hand pulled something out which the audience still couldn't see. The lid of the box then swiftly fell down with a loud clap, and what was seen was horrific. Bendy had an unfamiliar angry scowl printed on his face as he held a disembodied head in his right hand, drained of all color and with empty eye sockets that were covered in congealed blood. The bottom jaw was visibly broken in many directions, and the teeth had been forcefully plucked from the mouth and stabbed everywhere across the forehead like a sick art piece. This unrecognizable piece of rotting meat was all that remained of Stryker, and Stella felt her heart jump out of her mouth at the realization. Bendy threw the head across the room past the slack-jawed onlookers until it rolled across the once squeaky clean floor, and came to a slow stop at Stella's bottom dress. No one dared move, no one dared breathe. All they could do was listen and look. Bendy, what about now? Stella, this is a sick gesture. Bendy. Bendy, you know I'm all for a good laugh, but I think this little joke has ran on for too long. Stella. Tell everyone the truth. Stella, what truth? She retorted, playing dumb. Bendy, that you sent this assassin to kill me after I gave you and your family a very clear warning to never interfere, he said, getting angrier by the minute. Stella, I don't know what you're talking about. So clean up this mess you made and leave now before we all make you, she shouted back as her fellow Ghoulishes stood by her side and casted a few deadly spells. Everyone else was either still in shock or had took her side in order to get rid of this demon. The demon in question just sighed and calmed down. Bendy, so you don't know who he is? Stella, no. Now get out. Bendy looked down and nodded slowly. Bendy, all right, just so you know. I didn't want to do this. He then snapped his fingers as a chair magically appeared behind him, and a few inky musicians dragged something on stage. This something had a bag on its head and was writhing about, trying to escape as it made muffled noises that sounded like cries of help. It was then sat and tied to the chair with enchanted chains. Bendy did the honors of removing the bag to reveal Stella's Octavia. They both exclaimed in surprise as they rushed to the stage. Bendy, I would stay right there if I were you. Wouldn't want our precious little owlet getting hurt now, would we? Bendy said as his trademark murderous smile made a triumphant return. Stella's let her go this instant. Bendy, no, I don't think I will. The Goetia were ready to unleash hell on Bendy, while everyone backed away from the sadistic overlord. One foolish Goetia threw a burning fireball at the ink demon to catch him off guard. Didn't work. The fireball slammed into an invisible wall that curved around Bendy as he stood there unscathed. He looked at the idiot who did this and gave him a look that could kill. And that it did all of a sudden. Large ink protrusions erupted from the ground and impaled the Goetia hundreds of times through every area. Blood and ink flooded the near vicinity as the spears then sank back down, taking the broken body with them. Almost everyone screamed at the sight. Bendy's power was on a whole other level. This overlord killed one of their own in the blink of an eye. As much as it pained the parents for one member to be lost, they turned their attention back to saving Octavia. Stella doesn't have anything to do with this, Bendy. Bendy, correction. She didn't have anything to do with this. But your inability to just stop being a bitch has put her within our line of fire. It's your fault she's in this chair, not mine. Stella's, you're a monster. Bendy, hey, at least I'm not the one having a sexual affair with an imp. He said out loud so everyone could hear. Everyone turned to Stella's in shock and disgust. How could he of all people disgrace the family name like that? The Von Eldritch family were mortified not only that Stella's had the affair but also that the ink demon they mocked earlier was here and making severe threats. None of them could speak. They could only listen to the humiliation and repulsive comments made by the enormous crowd. This was a low blow unlike any other. Stella eventually got over it when she heard her daughter's pained cries from the stage. Bendy had just left a visible scratch down her entire left cheek with one of his razor-sharp ink claws. The crimson scar leaked gentle stream of blood. That made the parents' own blood boil in fury. Stella's, I'll kill you, you evil bastard. The parents sprinted up to the stage past the frozen crowd, ready to incinerate the diabolical overlord. Before they could get any further though, Bendy aimed his claws at the owlet's throat, earning many fearful whimpers. One quick slice and she would die. Bendy, what did I just say? Bendy shouted in a rage-driven tone. The parents ground to a halt in fear of their only child being killed right in front of them. The two opposing sides were at a standstill. None of them would give in. The atmosphere was drenched in tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. The crowd held their breaths. Stella's and Stella were on the verge of tears. Octavia kept crying in desperation to be saved. And Bendy smiled like the psychopathic murderer he is and leaned down to meet Octavia's face. Bendy, now where should we start? Maybe we could break the wrists. With hands like yours it'll be like snapping a toothpick. Or we could chop off the legs. He pondered as his right hand formed into an inky axe that hovered dangerously close to Octavia's legs. She shivered from feeling the freezing tip of the blade brush against her skin. She could have also sworn that a bit of blood still escaped despite the tiny touch. Bendy, you know what? I'm probably going about this too sophisticated. I'll just eat your eyes, your lungs and your pancreas. Then I'll tear off your rib cage, stab it through your skull, rip through your intestines and hang your mangled corpse with them. I suppose either way those beautiful feathers of yours will be stained red in the end. And just for you, dear, I'll be nice and slow. His demonic side grew all the more prominent as his serrated teeth grew exponentially along with his mouth that stretched into a pair of beefy jaws that could crush metal. He snapped and growled at the poor owlet who just wished this nightmare would end. In one way or another. Stella's was the first to knock himself out of his stupor and stood up for his daughter. Stella's, if you lay a finger on her ISW. The thunderous roar shook the whole mansion and its occupants. The tables, chairs, Food and other decorations flew away from the ear-splitting sound. The echoes of the monstrous roar spread far and wide. It seemed like the whole of hell itself shuddered at the power of the ink demon. Every single window in the Pride Ring shattered, impaling any unlucky demons and waking many more from their slumber in a cold sweat. Everyone knew what caused it, and they all trembled with fear. Even Lucifer and Lilith awoke from their sleep, and deep down they had a sneaking suspicion that was just the beginning of something much worse yet to come. After the booming warning concluded and everyone had been knocked off their feet, a heavy silence fell once again. Stella was the first to speak up. Stella sobbing, "What do you want?" Bendy then grew a smirk on his face as he turned back to normal. Well, as normal as a living cartoon demon could look. "Bendy, I want you to apologize for what you did on the radio, so everyone can hear it. Then I want you to give me a compensation for any damages caused to my factory. About 10 million should do the trick. Do all that and Octavia will leave unharmed." The couple could only stare in shock of the demands. But for Stolas, he was willing to do anything, so he agreed. Stella, on the other hand, she just looked down on the ground in worry. The family name would be ruined forever. Octavia's life is on the line. Which comes first? Bendy leaned down yet again to Octavia's face, who flinched from the feeling and smell of Bendy's deathly breath. Bendy whispered, "You see, Octavia, a true parent would do anything to protect their child. If it meant giving away money or sacrificing themselves, they would do it without a second thought because they love their child that much. But look at your mother. She is actually taking the time to think about it. She's putting the value of your life into question. What does that say to you?" Octavia's tears were immediately put on hold at that moment. She gazed down in deep thought. Bendy was manipulative, a creature who obscures in order to get what he wants. He must be lying. Her mother loved her with all her heart, right? Bendy knew he struck something within Octavia's young mind, something that spawned a million questions. Questions riddled with doubt, betrayal, and anger. He grinned and rose back up to his full height, where Stella finally came up with an answer. "Stella, anything to save Octavia." Bendy snapped his fingers yet again, and next to Stella a dark puddle formed where the hellhound from before crawled out with a vintage radio in one hand. He extended the radio out to Stella, where she took the microphone piece and prepared the apology. The hellhound turned on the rusty contraption and signaled for Stella to start talking. "Stella, this is a message from Stella Goetia to Bendy the Ink Demon. I am truly sorry for sending an assassin after you, and for not holding up on our previous agreement. I realize now that you are a worthy adversary, and that I shouldn't ever put your power into question. I would like you to take a donation from our family bank to make up for my misdeed. So please give my daughter B back," she said, just barely getting an apology out since she stuttered through half of it, and her face was soaked with the waterfall of tears from her bloodshot eyes. A certain sinner in all red found this broadcast very amusing back in his radio station. Bendy, satisfied with the first half, turned to Stolas expecting the second half. Stolas conjured up a magic spell from one of the runes in his grimoire, where a magic ball, the size of a basketball, was filled with $10 million in cash. The magic made the sum look smaller than it actually did. The money ball then floated over to the music slaves behind Bendy, who had the rucksack from earlier for holding the money. The ball slowly floated in and the slaves tied the bag up. "It was done, Bendy. Good. I'm glad you finally saw reason, Stella." Stella stared at Bendy with unbridled hatred. Bendy only smiled at the devastated owl. "Bendy, now we can all walk away happy," he exclaimed as he cut the binds on Octavia in a flash and pushed her over the stage, where her parents were quick to react and caught her before she fell. The three embraced each other tightly. Despite the affair, the parents never felt closer. Octavia was glad she was back in caring hands, but what Bendy whispered to her still lingered in the back of her mind. During this soppy reunion, Bendy and his followers took their leave. No one dared to stop them after what happened tonight. "Bendy, it was a pleasure doing business as always. But if I were you, I would avoid any future engagements, understand?" he said, half threateningly and half merrily. And with that final message he sank through the floor, taking all his ink slaves and hellhound with him. He shot one final evil smile at the broken family before he descended down to his personal hell. Everyone let out a collective sigh they didn't know they were holding. The Goetias were mentally worn. The Von Eldritch family were in a state of shock after everything that just occurred. And Octavia had doubts. She had doubts about a lot of things. Was Bendy right? The tired and weeping family were now at the foot of their own castle late at night after a quiet drive. Octavia hadn't dared speak for a long time, but she needed to get something off her chest. She looked at her mother, who walked right next to her, and her father, who was still practically hugging her as they walked to the house. She knew they had all been through a lot, but she needed to speak up about what she heard. She needed confirmation, closure, anything to satiate her newfound appetite for answers. Octavia, Mum. Stella: Yes, dear. Octavia: Back at the party, what? Octavia wasn't able to finish as her house suddenly exploded in a gigantic blazing inferno. The force of the blast knocked the tiny family to the ground as the intense heat nearly seared the flesh off their bones. The top of the magnificent structure crumbled like a house of cards as the untamable fire melted the insides of the building and reduced the home to a burning heap of ash. The family were frozen in fear and sadness. The torrent of tears once again coated their eyes. Their home completely destroyed, as if things couldn't get worse. Now they had nothing. Stolas would have to face the fire of his secret being known by his friends. Stella lost money, and she lost her home that had stood strong for generations. And Octavia had gained a defined phobia. A phobia of the ink demon. He isn't just a demon. He is a nightmare. A nightmare forever haunting those who he despises. The Goetia name had at this point lost any semblance of respect or power. All of the family's lifelong work was now floating away on a flurry of embers. The insidious flame burned the charred remains all night, as did the family's souls. He's tall and cold and smiles. He's death by another name. When you feel him drawing close, you're twisted in his hopeless game. Right outside your window the demon comes to call. If you survive, please tell the tale, so others will not fall. Nefarious News, 10:00 a.m. 666 News Station. Approximately 10 hours after the palace fire. Katie: Good morning, I'm Katie Killjoy. Tom: And I'm Tom Trench. Chaos has been spreading like wildfire recently. Much like how the Goetia family home has become a wildfire. You heard me right. Not too long ago the castle was destroyed in spectacular fashion, while the family was there to witness it. Katie: No casualties seem to have befallen the family, but everyone is rightly shocked. However, many are already saying that only one thing is to blame for this hot tragedy: the ink demon. Tom: It has only been a little over a year, and the Overlord Bendy has made quite a name for himself, controlling the Pride Ring's overpopulation, working with the Triple Versus, becoming friends with Alastair the Radio Demon, and even building his own evil lair where he does who knows what to any unlucky sinner. Katie: The Goetias haven't been available for questioning, but other guests from the party last night have already confirmed that Bendy is to blame for the family's misfortune. Not only did he crash their party by threatening to kill the daughter of Stolas and Stella, Octavia, but he is also apparently the one who brought the house down on them. Tom: Wow, remind me to never get on his bad side. Katie: I don't need to remind you, Tom. You have a knack for it. She then spills her scalding coffee on Tom's crotch. Tom pained wheezes. Katie: Just what will this dastardly demon do next? We'll be sure to answer that in the coming weeks. All that and more after the break. The news cuts temporarily, allowing the people in the studio to take a moment to relax. Well, when I say relax. Tom: Why do you keep doing this to me? Katie: Calm your balls, Tom, it'll wear out. Tom: Do you have any idea how expensive the surgery is to fix them? And you keep destroying them. At this rate, I'll be castrated and homeless. Katie: And I'll finally have this desk all to myself. She mumbled. Tom: What? Katie: Nothing now, fuck off, jackass. Tom only sighed in frustration and pain as he limped off to his own room to do a little damage control. Katie, meanwhile, was reapplying her makeup on the set. The camera crew said they had a 5-minute break before they would be on air again, so Katie thought it was best to just sit around and drink whatever was left of her coffee. As she looked into the contents of the cup, however, a drop fell into it. She recoiled slightly from the drop and looked up to see some sort of liquid dripping from the ceiling. She sighed in annoyance. Katie: Is the set so fucking cheap that you can't have proper filtration? She said aloud. Crew member 1: What are you talking about? Katie: This, are you blind? She said, gesturing to where the drops were falling into her coffee cup. Crew member 1: There's nothing there. From his point of view, there was nothing in sight to suggest poor filtration. Everything was dry, no drops. Katie had her mouth open in disbelief and anger, but as she looked at the drops from the ceiling and in her cup, she noticed something. They were completely black. Not clear like water, but dark like ink. Deep within her mind, there was something telling that this was wrong, and that this looked all too familiar. As she gazed into her coffee cup, she saw the liquid ripple and slowly change color, from a soft brown to a hard black. The void swirled in the cup in mesmerizing fashion as Katie only looked on in confusion. The titular whirlpool eventually calmed down and the liquid came to a standstill. Katie could now see her reflection in the cup, and just like her actual face, her reflection adopted a look of anxiety and puzzlement. Not too long after, something else appeared in the cup, another face. A cartoonish, black and white face that peered from the cup into the frightened reporter's eyes with a look that could petrify. Deafening silence rang through the moment as the two reflections locked eyes with each other. "Bendy, are you going to drink that?" Katie screamed as she jumped from her seat and spilled all of the contents of the coffee around the room, catching everyone's attention and making the disgruntled janitor groan. She whipped her head behind her to see none other than Bendy standing there in all of his comical glory, looking somewhat disappointed. "Bendy, well, you didn't have to spill it. Oh well. I suppose I've always been more of a tea person myself." He then walked to Tom's chair and sat down as he magically whipped up a whole set: cups, tea bags, white sugars, honey jars, mints, and ginger. Katie predictably stood there, frozen with a stupefied expression. Bendy took to creating his treat with the selection of additives available, not minding at all that everyone was either frozen in terror or had fainted. "Bendy, oh, I'm sorry, did you want a cup too?" Katie, Bendy, do you like lemon in your tea? I just figured with what you're like on TV, it would make sense to have something just as sour. Katie still couldn't bring up anything as Bendy made her tea with lemon regardless. At that point, Tom arrived with a new pair of trousers. "Tom, alright, how long till the next shoot?" Mumble, "Maybe that scream I heard earlier was Katie spilling coffee on her crow." He stopped his rambling as he fully absorbed the situation presented in front of him. The whole crew were trembling in their boots. Katie was frozen with a thunderstruck expression. The janitor cleaned the floor with a deadpan face, and the ink demon was casually making tea in his chair. "Tom, what is happening?" "Bendy, isn't it obvious I'm here for the interview?" "Katie, what interview, Bendy?" "The one I scheduled just now. Since you were all talking so highly of me, I felt inclined to grace you all with my presence and answer any questions that are engraved into those tiny minds of yours." Katie looked to the crew, who were all mouthing no. She looked to Tom, who had no idea what to do. Then she thought to herself, and the unbreakable sense of greed washed over her mind. An interview with the one and only ink demon. The number of dollar bills she would be counting could only be fantasized by Mammon himself. Katie say, "Would a 15-minute interview suffice?" "Tom and crew, are you joking?" "Bendy, that would be fine, Miss Killjoy here," he said, handing over her tea. Tom then ran over to Katie. "Tom, we can't interview him. He could kill us all in the blink of an eye if we touch a nerve," he whispered. "Katie, but if we don't touch a nerve and last just 15 minutes, we would be recognized across the whole city as the bravest reporters in recent history, and our checks would go up accordingly. Tell me you wouldn't relish the chance to make the big bucks." Tom looked down with conflicted thoughts. "Katie, and maybe you would finally be able to buy the boner all the women are talking about." "Tom, let's do it." The Dick duo then sat by Bendy at the desk and motioned for the live feed to start. Of course, the whole crew weren't happy and reluctant to do so, but after a few death glares from Katie, they begrudgingly started up the cameras and motioned when they were going live. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Katie, good morning once again, watchers. Boy, do we have an interview for you today, as not too long ago the man of much discussion has just met up with us and agreed for an interview. You know him, you fear him. It is the one and only Bendy. The lights focused on Bendy as he soaked in the definite shock, admiration and terror of those watching at home. Their eyes were without a doubt glued to the screen, eager to see the outcome of what could be a full-on slaughter. Even a certain princess was watching the news, albeit nervously. Katie, firstly, thank you very much for coming on such short notice, Bendy. Bendy, the honor is all mine, Miss Killjoy. Katie, please call me Katie. So, how does it feel being on the radar of every denizen in hell? Surely you must be exhausted of all the attention. Bendy, on the contrary, Katie, I can't get enough of it. Sigh, just hearing their applause, their laughter. Their fear, it is still priceless to this day. Tom, so I assume what happened last night with the Goetia was you, Bendy? Oh yes, of course. Someone had to put those shameless storks in their place. After all, they just kept committing foul play. A laugh track was heard in the studio, but no one knew where it came from, so they continued. Katie, all this destruction and massacre. Is there an ultimate goal for you? What will you achieve in the end? Bendy, that is for me to know and for everyone else to find out. However, I will reveal the announcement that Bendy World is nearly completed. Tom, Bendy World. Bendy, my state-of-the-art theme park. A place of magic, wonder, fun. So much so that Disney World would like a glorified carnival. Mutter, then I can finally stick it to that smug rat. Katie, what was that, Bendy? Nothing, Tom. Well, how would you go about advertising it? I mean, no offense, but everyone is just a little bit horrified of you, Bendy. That's no problem. In conjunction with advertisements, I will also start airing episodes of my wonderful cartoons on TV networks daily. That will be sure to bring in the children by the thousands. Katie, interesting. But won't people still be objected to this? I mean, the parents might be apprehensive, no. Bendy, maybe. But if they have a problem, they can meet with me personally. I could always use more helping hands. When it comes to modifying the park, of course. Katie, you know, many other overlords are out for your head, Bendy. And you freely publicize yourself like this. It is definitely dangerous, Bendy, yes. Should they interfere, it would be dangerous for them, wouldn't it? He said, directing his threat towards the camera, making the crew sweat. Katie, are your business partners in on this? Bendy, well, the 3 V's are helping in advertising. And Alastair will come round every so often to help with construction and supervision. The only trouble I'm having is security. At first I thought I could hire some of Rosie's colleagues, but I realized I would probably need a team that isn't cannibalistic. Tom, now I would personally like to know what you were like when you were alive. Bendy, there's no need to talk about that. Bendy said, evading the question. Tom, but considering your mentality and power, you must. Bendy, I said there is no need to talk about that. He responded demonically. Intense silence wafted over the whole studio, infecting everyone with a shivering sensation. Everyone made gestures for Tom to shut up quickly and tried changing the subject. Katie W. Well, what truly matters is the present, right? She chuckled nervously while Tom scratched behind his head. Bendy, exactly, no one is interested in who I was. They are only interested in what I'll do next. And what I plan on doing next is this. The lights around the room started dimming as a few crew members took this as their time to leave and tried to run for the doors. The doors, however, were locked from the outside. On the outside stood Sammy, twirling the keys around his finger while whistling. The 2 reporters slowly backed their chairs away from the ink demon, beyond afraid of what would come next. Bendy himself slowly faded away into a deathly mist, and all the lights in the studio completely turned off. Darkness. Charlie and many other demons watched the screen in anxiety and dread. Suddenly there should be a GIF or video here. Update the app now to see it. This song hypnotizes anyone nearby or watching as Bendy becomes more demonic while performing. It is meant to symbolize a person's death and their rebirth into Bendy's slave. 2:30 to 2:58 is when Bendy directly addresses Charlie. Everyone follows Bendy out of the studio and down the road while onlookers also fall victim to the song. They all eventually reach Bendy's incorporation studio, and the crowd slowly piles, eagerly waiting for their sickly conversion to begin. As this occurs, outside, Bendy looks at an abandoned butcher shop with curiosity. An idea forms into his head. Bendy, maybe security won't be a problem after all. Hi dear readers, sorry for the wait, and no, you'll never make me stop apologizing. Anyway, I hope that this chapter quenches your insatiable thirst for inky goodness, as in my opinion, I feel like I could have done better. In other news, I'm proud to announce that The True Dinosaur King is now officially released with 2 chapters on there already. Please feel free to leave in the comments there or here if you like what see so far out of my new story. For now, there should be a GIF or video here. Update the app now to see it. The Butcher Gang. An ominous mist was waving over the cobbled streets, cloaking the town in a blanket of mystery and foreboding. The streetlights flickered and flashed as the pedestrians beneath walked like half-asleep zombies. And from within the fog, a trio of figures materialized into view. One was a bald ape with large ears, a black nose, and a black beard. He had dual wrenches with sharpened tips at the end, and his skin was yellow with decay. This was Piper, the leader. The second was a sort of pirate with a white hat, a black eye patch on his right eye, a black pipe in his mouth, and white gloves on his hands. He was colored the same as the first creature, and his whole head was on a fishing rod line, swaying back and forth over the street. This was Fisher. The final creature was a black puppet-like spider that had many button eyes and two sharp fangs like a malformed vampire. He also carried a bag on his back. However, the contents within were a mystery. This was Creeper. The three nightmarish stooges creeped on the street and gave looks that promised searing pain to those who stared for too long. The residents closed their curtains and snuffed out the lights. The whole street seemed to fall asleep so as not to draw the attention of the inky monsters. As the excruciatingly long minutes passed by, the trio eventually found the marked location, a rundown bar that reeked of booze and drugs. The outside of the building looked like something from the Victorian era and looked like it could collapse from just the slightest touch. A broken, unnoticed brick bar. This was exactly the kind of place that the leader would think of when trying to hide. "Fisher, are you sure this is the right place?" he asked in a stereotypical fisherman accent. NU Stipendium's rap video Art of Darkness for reference on their accents. Piper sighed, "Yes, this is the place. At this point I'm wondering if it's just in your nature to doubt what I think or say." "Fisher, why don't you ask him? He is the one who created us after all." "Creeper, can we just get this over with? I saw a family earlier leaving the theater and I need to collect some food for the livestock." "Fisher, I thought you were against killing the little buggers." "Creeper, still am. The adults, though they're tantalizing, they are. I'll just leave the kid there alone to look at the remains of his parents. I'm sure that won't have any repercussions." "Piper, enough. Remember, we're not here to draw attention. We just need to bring her back in and out. Nothing more. I Fisher, I Creeper, no promises." He giggled. Piper sighed once more before turning to the doors and pushing them open. Within the bar, a warm glow bathed the atmosphere in a welcoming yet daunting aura. The counter was managed by a single bartender polishing a few glasses, as the few customers there were either unconscious from drinking too much or were playing various card games to pass the time. As soon as the telltale creaking of the oak doors reached the ears of the demons, they slowly turned their weary eyes to the source of the noise to find three new creatures. Only one poor sod seemed to catch on to what these creatures were and where they came from, and actually chickened out of the card game he was in before gingerly walking off to the back. The rest either stared at the new arrivals with disgust or just paid them no mind. The trio simply ignored the reactions and continued on their way to the counter. They each took a stool and sat down, waiting for the bartender to come over and take their orders. "Bartender, what will it be?" "Piper will settle for information." "Bartender, huh? Piper, we know you're hiding her here. So where exactly is she?" "Bartender, I have no fucking clue what you're on about." "Creeper, is this the part where I threatened to gouge his eyes out?" he whispered to Piper, who mouthed a "not yet." Just as they were whispering, though, three drunk hellhounds picked up on what the three were whispering about with their impeccable hearing and walked up to the trio from behind to exercise what little muscle they had. "Hellhound 1, in case you shitheads didn't realize, this is our bar. Only we get to talk to the bartender like that." Bartender sarcastically, "Oh gee, thanks." "Hellhound 2, if you want your limbs attached, I'd get the fuck out now." Hellhound 3, what they burp said. The third spoke in a slur, "Fisher, now laddies. How about we arrange a deal?" The three hellhounds turned their attention to the ugly pirate in interest. "Fisher, you lot get the fuck out, and there won't be any trouble on this fine evening." The hellhounds laughed loudly at the empty threat, and everyone was now looking at the scene with bored, confused and tired faces. The inky trio, however, remained stone-faced. "Hellhound 1, you guys are funny, I'll give you that. But we're suckers for trouble, let's fucking tango," the hellhound declared as he and his friends bared their claws and teeth at the newcomers, ready to tear them asunder. Fisher and Creeper turned towards Piper, who was staring at the bartender the whole time, making the bartender very unsettled. "Piper, so much for not drawing attention. There should be a GIF or video here. Update the app now to see it. 025 Piper's kill. The hook swords are his pipe wrenches. There should be a GIF or video here. Update the app now to see it. 619 Fisher's kill. The bear trap is his head and the shotgun is a harpoon gun. There should be a GIF or video here. Update the app now to see it. 557 Creeper's kill. Everyone stared at the short scene in horror before taking the opportunity to run out the door. Some even yeeted their booze out the window to drink later. The bartender had a front row seat to the gory sight in front of him and was rightly terrified. His eyes threatened to leak a few tears as the killers turned their attention to him yet again. "Piper now. We have been very calm given the circumstances. Fisher, but we haven't got all bloody night, so tell us where we can find the gal, and you won't have to clean up any more messes." The bartender stood still trying to process what just happened. Piper snapped his fingers in front of the man's face, bringing him back to reality. His hands also shot up so as not to coax the three into hurting him. "Bartender B, but she will kill me." Creeper swiftly pulled out a pistol from his bag and shot the man's right hand. This caused him to scream and gasp in pain as he clutched the new wound in his left hand. His right hand bore a gaping hole rapidly leaking blood. "Creeper, would you rather her kill you her way, or us torture you our way?" He grinned and licked his lips like a primal animal. The bartender, not taking any more chances, led the trio to one of the spare rooms upstairs that demons could rent. He silently gave them the key and power walked off to presumably get medical help. The trio then looked at each other and all nodded as Piper slowly put the key in and turned. A satisfying click was heard as he then suddenly bashed the door open. That's where they found her. "Cherry, what the hell are you?" she exclaimed in shock and rage. After all, these strangers did just ruin her beauty sleep. She quickly got into a fighting stance where she could take the intruders head on, and where she could dash for her bombs in the closet if needed. "Fisher, oi, keep your knickers on, alright? We just came here to pick you up, Cherry. Pick me up, oh yeah, by who? Valentino, Dad." Cherry cut herself short of her rant as she started to take in the features of her intruders, and noticed they all had one thing in common. Ink. She slowly lowered her defenses and replaced her fearless nature with panic and anxiety. She remembered the morning all too well. The morning where she first met him. The moment she wasn't able to protect her best friend. "Cherry, no way, not gonna happen. Creeper, you don't have a choice, missy. Your time is up and your debt to him must be paid. Cherry, I already gave him enough demons to make a damn army. What else could he possibly fucking want? Piper, he wants you, Cherry, you're marked. You know what that means." Cherry clenched her fists in anger as she looked at the back of her hand and saw the revolting, pulsing black spot that had embedded itself deep into her skin. "Piper, you were in chains, begging for your life, and Bendy agreed to let you go. In return, you would bring him 100 souls to work in his factory in the set time you were given." "Cherry, yeah, I know. If I did it, I would be free again if I failed. He would whisk my soul away," she said dejectedly. "Fisher, and what did you do, lassie? You only brought him 99. He tooted in sarcastic disapproval. "Fisher, you may have ran out of time, but you can still technically pay off your debt. He didn't specify which souls he wanted, so if you head back now, he will technically have all 100 souls to enslave. It's a win-win. Cherry, there is no way in hell I'm going back there. I'll get the last soul, I just need a bit more time. Piper, you can't dig yourself out of this rabbit hole, Cherry. If you don't come willingly, we will tell the whole of hell the truth." "Cherry, what fucking truth?" "Piper, that you blew up the Ghoulish home, Cherry." Her face shifted from shock to terror to sadness. "Creeper, yeah. Why did you destroy their castle in the first place?" "Cherry, I got a T-tip from some anonymous person. It seemed legit at the time." "Fisher, what was the tip?" "Cherry, it said that Valentino would be at the castle for a scheduled dinner party. I just lost control of myself. Next thing I knew, I was planting demolition charges there, hoping to destroy the bastard." "Piper, I see. You thought if you could kill Valentino, then Angel Dust's contract with him would be destroyed and he would finally be free." Cherry only nodded with a few tears nearly bursting out of her lonely eye. "Piper, if this information is leaked to the public, Cherry, you would have the mother of all bounties on your head. The Ghoulishes would spend everything they have left if it gave them the chance to kill you. Creeper, and don't get us started on Valentino." Cherry looked up in concern. "Creeper, he knows about your friendship with Angel. One can only imagine what he would do to punish you. Funny, because he'd technically punish Angel." Cherry's look of fear started to reveal itself once again. Her best friend shouldn't suffer for what she alone did. Creeper simply grinned sadistically. "Creeper, just imagine all the scars, all the screams, all the tears and blood that would be leaked from Angel's weakened body. All because of you, Cherry. Shut up. Creeper, your friend, the only being in hell that you care for, will be beaten and battered to a bloody pulp. He will be drugged up and stripped and sold to whoever Valentino chooses. Because of you, Cherry. Shut up. Creeper, angel dust is going to die because of you. Cherry, shut up. Cherry fell to the ground practically out of breath and in overwhelming misery and regret. Angel dust will die because of her. She properly cried for the first time in years as she reflected on what she had done. Cherry, I sobbing, I just wanted to save him. I love him. Piper knelt down to her level. Piper, if you really do love him, you will submit to the ink demon. Minutes passed by silently as Cherry had a million rampant thoughts racing through her head. The trio simply stood there and waited. Cherry, okay? The trio perked their ears up. Cherry, I'll go with you. Just promise me that Angel will be okay. Don't tell anyone what I did. The three nodded in agreement and gestured for Cherry to leave. With her head hung low, Cherry walked by quietly whilst the monsters lurked behind her. Once they reached the outside, they noticed the pentagram sun on the horizon, signaling that the morning had come. A few citizens woke up to the burning red light and were ready to get on with their daily routine until they heard a loud, shrill voice from the street below. Creeper, listen up, folks. As of now, this street, along with its people and property, is under new management. Any who object will be dealt with accordingly. Onlooker says who. The onlooker was then swiftly shot by Fisher with his harpoon gun, leaving a large harpoon straight through his neck. The onlooker's neck bled profusely, and he choked on his own blood until finally succumbing to death. At that moment, Creeper threw behind him a grenade into the bar they were in, resulting in a ginormous blast. Flame burst through the windows and the wooden infrastructure was quickly burnt to charcoal. The residents, including Cherry, looked on in fright at the brutal creatures. Piper says, the fucking butcher gang, welcome to Bendy and Alice. Haul your pathetic asses. Move those tracks. I've seen cockroaches do better than that. A beautifully wretched voice pierced through the whole park as the many slaves were building the rides, polishing the buildings and prepping the prizes with haste. Sammy, Lawrence and Boris were watching from afar, and even wincing whenever a blow was struck by the heavenly angel. Sammy, you know, I've heard some people call her a mega Karen. Do you have any idea what that means? Boris simply shrugged in response. At that precise moment, the butcher gang arrived to deliver their report. Sammy, is security still in place? Creeper, yep. We also defused the bomb, if you know what I'm saying. Sammy and Boris grew a blank look of confusion. Piper, sigh, we dealt with Cherry Bomb as requested by the boss. The two immediately understood, as he said that though he noticed a particular slave out of the corner of his mutated eye serving under the heels of the angelic demoness, it turned out to be Cherry Bomb, who was now covered in a lot more ink, and her lonely eye was becoming more milky in color. It was clear that the corruption was taking effect as her body was shrunken from a lack of eating, and her face adopted a dull, drowsy look. Fisher, she looks like shit. Creeper, no shit, she looks like shit. We put her in this shit. Piper, will you two shut up? Besides, our boss will be arriving soon, and he wants us all on our best behavior. Sammy, hey Alice, when will he be ready? Alice, patience is a virtue, Mr. Lawrence. Alice, what the fuck is taking you all so long? If I don't see him up and running in 1 minute, I'll have you all turned into toilet lids. After the rant, Alice took a step back and met up with her co-workers. The co-workers in question were either still scared from her outburst or, in Boris's case, just covering his ears. Alice, what? Sammy, never mind. Smirk, take a look at that. Sammy gestured towards all of the park that they had built. What was once just a plot of land that had an ugly shed on it was now a full-scale wonderland of rickety rides, foul food and appalling awards. Sammy, his empire is growing. It won't be long till he has complete control, and I will be ruling by his side. Alice, is it all earned though? The rest of the group looked toward her in confusion. Alice, I'm the one who made this park a reality. I'm the one who keeps the factory from crumbling to smithereens. Sammy, what are you getting at? Alice, he asked, starting to glare at her. Alice, when has one thing we've ever done not been in the name of our Lord? If anything, we've created this kingdom and brought it to fame while he's been gallivanting off to kill people and sing a tune. Sammy, don't you dare take that tone with our Lord, Alice, unless you want to end up like them. Gestures to the slaves or worse. Alice, you don't scare me, Mr. Lawrence. Alice sneered. Sammy, but he does. You know fully well what he is capable of, and I'm sure if he was here with us right now, he would willingly give us a demonstration. But since he isn't, I'll have to temporarily fill his shoes." Sammy pulled out his axe and aimed it threateningly at Alice. The beautiful half of her face simply glared at the steadfast supporter while the grotesque half of her face practically frothed at the mouth with rage. All of a sudden, Boris stood protectively in front of Alice and growled at the possible danger that was posed by Sammy. Sammy, although shocked, got over it quickly and motioned for the butcher gang to unsheath their weapons at the duo. Silence rang loudly through the group as the risk of a violent confrontation grew ever higher. Both sides were unrelenting in their beliefs and neither of them backed down. Things would have gotten a lot worse if they weren't suddenly interrupted by a loud, heavy mechanical noise coming from one of the rides. They all looked towards one particular machine, the octopus ride that was finally operational. A few unlucky slaves were stranded on top of the machine as it suddenly started spinning at a rapid rate. In no time at all, they were all flung off into the far distance as the steaming machine eventually calmed down. Its engine thumped like a metallic heart, pumping oily blood throughout the whole ride as the decorative lights flickered to life one by one. At the center of the ride, pairs of cabinet-like doors creaked open and revealed a disgusting sight. A massive, bulging head with jet-black hair and a mustache was pressed against the window. It had demented eyes that gazed at everything that moved and had a hideous facial complexion of ink, decaying skin and numerous scratches. Alice Angel was the first to walk away from the fight and to the metal monstrosity. She spoke up calmly to get its attention. "Alice Bertram Piedmont, can you hear me, Bertram?" "Yes, my creator Alice. Good, now tell me, what is your purpose, Bertram?" "To entertain the children and to serve my creator." He stuttered like a child trying to learn how to speak for the first time. Alice smirked at the robot's compliance. She was about to turn the tides and use the machine against Sammy and the butcher gang, but an unmistakable sound was heard once again. A series of squelchy footsteps stamped on the gunky ground as heavy breaths eerily echoed through the amusement park. From out of the shadows of a nearby helter-skelter, the instantly recognizable jet-black, masculine monster that is the Ink Demon, loomed into view. The same wickedly happy smile was painted on his beastly face as he drooled a never-ending waterfall of ink. Everyone in the group immediately bowed in subservience to their master, although Alice was definitely unwilling at first. "Sammy, my lord, security is up and running. The park is finished and everyone is ready for the little devils to be flooding in. Do you want the honors of opening the park?" Bendy didn't respond. Behind the inky cloud was a pair of incredibly demonic eyes that outstared every soul in the near vicinity. Everyone was anxiously awaiting for an answer from the Ink Demon, who could have been mistaken for a statue if he wasn't gurgling and snarling with each breath he took. Then, without warning, Bendy transformed to his signature cartoon form and signaled his slaves to cue the music. "There should be a GIF or video here. Update the app now to see it." As the song was playing, a torrent of children flooded through the gates to the amusement park full of innocent glee. The workers got on with their designated jobs while Bendy shooed off his personal group to attend their other activities. Before Alice could leave, however, Bendy grabbed her by the arm. She turned around to see the true Ink Demon, the sinister savage she secretly fears. Holding her back, Bendy leaned in close to her ear. "Bendy, don't think I didn't notice your little rebellion, Alice Angel. If I were you, I'd sleep with one eye open." Bendy then let go of Alice and slinked back into the shadows from whence he came. Alice was shook for a moment before regaining her composure and leaving Bendyland. On the outskirts of Bendyland, an unknown person had snuck in and was watching everything that had played out. They then hid somewhere quiet before taking up their phone and calling their associate. "Caller, he's completed the park faster than we expected. We need to move on to the next phase now." Receiver, but it's too early. The grimoire hasn't been fully fixed yet. "Caller, we don't need the whole book. Just the spell. Call me when you've got it and we'll all rendezvous in the central clock tower." The call was ended and the figure silently ran away from Bendyland, with the intent of stopping Bendy once and for all, brewing conflict. The surprisingly clean clock tower stood proud across the dirty and decrepit buildings of the Pride Ring. As each minute ticked by on the clock, a new sinner fell from the bleeding sky, reborn and shoved into a new life of torment and torture. Underneath the clock, however, stood a slim figure buried in a black hood and matching cloak. They were tapping their foot on the ground as a sign of their impatience and nervousness. After all, they were playing a vital part in the eradication of the ink demon. Not too long after, another person in similar clothing appeared from the crowd and walked up to the first figure. They signaled to head inside the clock tower, unaware they were being watched from a distance by someone, and that someone was closing the distance. Once inside, the pair examined the dark, secluded room around them to check for any eavesdroppers. As soon as they finished, they pulled down their hoods. "Vaggie, did you bring it?" "Octavia, yes, but be careful with it. It's over 65 million years old." Octavia handed over a single paper page that was slightly yellow as a sign of its incredible age. It had a multitude of ancient runes and rites etched into it that all helped to spell out a single dark spell. "Boy, Octavia, look, I want that Looney Tunes prick gone just as much as you, but is this really the way to do it? That spell has only ever been used once, and no one knows what's on the other side. Vaggie, we have to do this via. You and your family have suffered from him long enough, and many more will suffer if we allow him to stay. Ever since that meeting Charlie had, I've been dying to kill that inky bastard. This spell is as close as we'll ever come to doing that. Octavia, do you think Charlie will be up for this?" "Vaggie, sigh, I don't know. But I've got to get her to see reason. Not everyone can be redeemed, especially Bendy. Octavia, I'm just trying to warn you. If all this goes sideways, I've seen what he's like when he's angry, and you don't want to see him angry." Octavia stuttered on her words as she can still vividly remember that awful night. Vaggie goes to comfort Octavia, but just as she does, they both hear a voice from up top. "Wow, I knew people hated him, but I didn't know there was a club." Vaggie immediately pulled out an angelic spear and pointed to the direction of the noise. "Vaggie, who's there?" "Octavia." "Vaggie, it's all right. I know this one." The figure jumped down from above and revealed their identity. "Luna, yeah, calm your panties down, I want to help." "Octavia." "Luna, it's been a while." "Luna, same here." Fist bump. Vaggie lowering weapon. "So did Bendy hurt you too?" "Luna, you kidding? That fucker almost drained me dry of my own blood. Can you blame me for wanting to get back at him?" "Vaggie, the more the merrier, I suppose." "Luna, good, so what's the plan?" Vaggie showed Luna the page ripped straight from the grimoire. Since she used the book regularly for the IMP company, she caught on pretty quickly what exactly she was planning. Luna smirked. "Not bad. But you gonna have to get close to him for that to work." "Vaggie, I know, but he's surrounded by his slaves. It'll be like fighting an army just to reach him." "Luna, I can help with that. After all, I do work for an assassination company. With the right weapons, I can draw fire from you to give you enough time to send that bastard to double hell." Vaggie, "Well, there's one problem with that. I can't perform the spell." "Luna, what?" Vaggie, "The void can only be summoned by someone of the royal family." "Luna, aren't you friends with the princess?" Vaggie, "Girlfriend, and she is what you might call a pacifist, but she is the only one who can help us. I'll just have to convince her somehow." During their back and forth conversation, Octavia checked her watch and realized the time, so she finally spoke up. "Octavia, sorry, but I need to go now. My dad will be worried sick if I'm gone too long." Vaggie, "And your mum right?" Octavia, "Oh yeah. Why her as well?" Vaggie grew a bit suspicious, wondering why Octavia stuttered, but paid no mind to it. Octavia left the building soon after. Vaggie, "Okay. I'll get Charlie to use the spell later today, and..." Luna, whoa today. A bit hasty in my opinion." Vaggie, "The sooner Bendy is gone the better." Luna, touch. "In the meantime, I'll get the others in on this. They're definitely gonna help in any way they can to get back at that bitch." Vaggie, "I'll call you when the time comes. Until then, I'll see you later, and thanks for the help." Luna, "Sure, just don't screw it up." With that, Luna leapt up and snuck out of the clock tower the same way she came in, leaving Vaggie alone. Vaggie mutter, "Thanks for the confidence booster." Time skip has been Hotel 20 p.m. Charlie was sitting down watching TV as a means to relax herself. Due to paying almost all the bills and debts the hotel had, she was exhausted and just wanted a moment to herself to reflect. Her deep thought was interrupted when Vaggie finally came back after her shopping trip. "Charlie, hey Vaggie. What have we got this time?" Her question was drawn out when she noticed Vaggie didn't bring anything with her. No shopping bags, no receipt, nothing. Just what looked like a single page ripped from a book. "Vaggie, hun, we need to talk." "Charlie, about what?" "What's that page you're holding?" "Vaggie, it's a page from the grimoire." Please take a look at it. Charlie was understandably confused but took the page from Vaggie nonetheless and examined it closely. It wasn't long before her eyes widened with horror. Charlie, Vaggie, how did you? Vaggie, friends in high places, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you would be helping a lot of people by using this spell. Charlie, what are you talking about, Vaggie? You need to use it on Bendy. Charlie, I know. I will never use this spell, Vaggie. No matter the circumstances. Vaggie, Charlie, that monster hurt you and has hurt so many more. You're always willing to help sinners and give them a chance at redemption. But how can you do that when there will be no sinners left? Bendy won't stop until he has the whole of the pride ring in the palm of his hand. He needs to pay. Charlie, not like this. And listen to yourself. Where's the Vaggie I fell in love with? Vaggie, Charlie, I completely understand that Bendy isn't the nicest overlord, but whoever is. Besides, I hardly think he's that popular. Vaggie isn't the nicest overlord. Hardly think he's that popular. He's one of the most evil demons hell has ever seen, Charlie. And you see him everywhere, Charlie. Maybe. Their argument was interrupted when the TV in the lounge produces a loud static sound before changing to a mysterious channel that is in a black and white retrograde fashion. Soon after, an advert popped up on the screen. There should be a GIF or video here. Update the app now to see it afterwards. Vaggie looked towards her girlfriend with the "I told you" look. Charlie, okay, maybe he is both of those things, but you're essentially asking me to send him to double hell. I just can't find it in my heart to do that sort of thing, Vaggie. Vaggie, so what are we going to do? Charlie started to gain a look of conflict as she ran through all the thoughts, theories and results in her head. Nothing seemed to stand out. She inevitably had to face the fact that Vaggie's idea may actually be the best solution to this big problem. Charlie, I don't know, hun. I've seen what the void is like, she said, catching Vaggie's attention. Charlie, I was young when I caught a glimpse of the void. My father was using it to punish a traitor to the family who had committed atrocities in the family's name. It was only brief, but I felt the void. An everlasting darkness, never-ending torment. Infinite torture, pain on an indescribable level. And screaming, so much screaming. I had nightmares for weeks. I'm not sure if I could face that thing again. Charlie was nearly on the verge of tears until she felt a tight hug coming from Vaggie. Vaggie, it's okay. I'm here now and I promise I will never let anything happen to you. I'm really sorry. I wish there was another way, but we can't keep sweeping this problem under the rug. Can you trust me? Charlie hugged back and closed her eyes. The two stayed like that in the hallway for a long time, listening to their heartbeats before Charlie finally spoke up. Charlie, I'll do it. Vaggie, really, Charlie? Yeah. I trust you. But if we're gonna do this, I want to run it by my parents first. They have much more experience with this sort of thing than I do. Vaggie, that's fine, whatever you need, hun. Charlie, wait. Do you think he'll find out about this? She exclaimed worriedly. Vaggie, don't worry, Charlie, I've sorted it all out. Nothing is going to spill. Besides, I know you can kick his ass. Vaggie smirked. Charlie blushed a little bit, and the couple walked out of the hotel entrance to the limousine with the plan underway. Bendy will soon be no more. In a dark corner of the same hallway, an eerie static flew through the halls like a phantom. A crimson silhouette glowed in the shadow with piercing blood-red eyes and a crooked smile. Alastair, interesting. A malicious chuckle echoed in the Has-Been Hotel.